Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful LCA podcast. It's night. See, my brain already stuttered a little bit. It's like mindful what? Mindful LCA podcast. Today we have a guest. We have Maritza with us. I invited her to the podcast because I like who she is as a person more than anything. She's been super kind and nice to my daughters, to me. She is my compadre, my best friend's sister, and I know there's some little bit of history of mental health. So I was just like, hey, you want to be in the podcast? And she said, sure. So that's what we're gonna have today. So first of all, how are you doing, Norma?
Um, I'm tired. I'm tired. I went to bed at like 3:30 last night and had to be up at 6:30, so I only had like 3 hours of sleep, and I have not slept since. So I'm really tired. I'm struggling today, but I'm really excited to hear Maritza's story. So tired but excited. How are you, Steve?
Uh, Physically tired as well. Just been dealing with a lot of stuff. We'll talk about it in another episode coming up. But like my dad had a heart attack last week, so just dealing with all those emotions and all that has been kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's been pretty busy, pretty thing. Usual Steve shit. So a lot of shit going on always, and yeah, just another form of like healing and some other stuff coming up for me that I need to continue to grow and assess and keep going and stuff. Right now that you know, Marita, you can't say good.
Can't
How are
say
you
good.
doing today?
Ew. Oh man. I'm glad you made that disclaimer because I think that's what I usually would have gone with.
That's
Just
what
move on.
most of us are used to. That is why we say we can't say that, because that's like really like a cop out. So, how
Yeah.
are you?
I'm I think I'm doing okay, and I say with the caveat that okay for me is coming at a like I think this episode is coming at a really interesting time. There's definitely been a lot of like shifts throughout this week for me, like mentally and emotionally. But right now, I think I'm in. I'm coming down off of like a pretty low, and I'm like on my way back up a little bit. So I wouldn't say I'm at the level of fine, but I'm doing okay.
Good, good.
Good. Thank you
Okay,
for clarifying. All right.
so tell us a little bit about who you are as a person. Uh, just anything you'd like to share with us. Just give us a little introduction of to who you are.
Who are you?
Yeah. Wow, what a tough question. Who am I? Um, it's definitely an interesting question. I've been okay. It sounds cliche, but I really haven't thinking a lot about it. Like recently, like who for me, I think like my mental health has been so definitive of my life,
Mhm.
and just like my daily experience that I've been trying to think a lot of. I've always been in a very reactive space, and who am I really like outside of that? What I do know is that I I care a lot about my community. I care about justice. I care about equity. The things that keep me going are is the recognition that as many like rock bottoms as I have hit and like will continue to keep hitting, there are like moments where I truly feel like the sun on me, and I have beautiful moments with friends, or my dog will do like the silliest, like clumsiest thing, and there's like brief kind of like the clouds break for a second. Um, but I live in the IE, like I know like Steve, like you have a connection with my brother, and like my family all live in the Bay Area, so that's where I grew up. We are a family of immigrants, and something that's been so formative to me too, and that really led to where I am right now as a I work as a community organizer, specifically with labor organizing, and a lot of that is because I grew up watching my dad. He would leave the home like before the sun would leave, and I wouldn't see him until I was almost like going to bed. He was always really tired and always super stressed out um, about what the bills are that are going to be need to be paid, about basic essentials. And I grew up like watching that and recognizing like really early on like this is a really fucked up way to treat people. Like
Mm,
what a fucked up way to design a system.
mhm,
um, and so now I work supporting workers and being able to advocate for better and safer working conditions. And the whole time, like I think about my dad, I think about like my family and things that I wish I had known and would have been able to do like when I was younger.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. I love that. I love that. How long have you been doing that work?
Very recently, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, so when I think I started getting involved with like community work in high school, first with like health education because you grow up poor, you don't have the same access to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was one of like the first things I started to get involved in. And then I went to college and I worked on undocumented student advocacy in the UC system for a few years. And then I hit a really low point where I left school and I moved back home because my mental health was really bad. And I think like everyone, like even me, got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to stop. I need to
Hmm.
pause for a second. And then the pause turned into like 2 years. Um, and I moved back to the IE maybe like two years ago now. Um, with the intention of returning to school. It didn't work out. I think mentally I wasn't really there and I was adjusting to being on my own again. Um, and then this past year is when I first started like really hitting my friends up again and started leaving the house like outside of work more often and being involved more. And through that, like I got connected to some of the different work that was going on and different organizations. And I'm incredibly lucky that they like saw something in me and like have like taken the time to bring me on. But it's fairly recent too.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you for sharing that. It's definitely something that a lot of people struggle to share and be that vulnerable. So we would like to thank
Mhm.
you for your vulnerability. And like Norma was saying before we start recording, like that's what it's all about. So I realize it's not easy to talk about sometimes, but like really thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable with that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's literally why we do what we do with this podcast, right? Like especially within our community of Latino people, Mexican people, right? Like the topic of mental health doesn't really exist. It's like really non-existent. And it's understandable because of what you're saying, right? Like the part of the working conditions, you have to worry about bringing food to the table and like making ends meet. So like, what the fuck's depression? What the fuck's anxiety? Like we don't got time for that, girl. Like we gotta eat. And even when we get outside of that, if we talk about like, oh, I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling depressed, then it's like ponte a limpiar, like find something to do. And this idea of ignoring or not acknowledging mental health struggles is something that is very prominent within our community, which is why I think it's so imperative that we continue to talk about it. So thank you so much for your vulnerability, as Steve said. So from what I'm hearing is, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm getting it correctly, is so then would you say that you've experienced depression throughout your life? Is that kind of what is happening?
Oh, my whole life. Um, I I cannot recall a time, and even when I was a kid, could not recall a time ever not being depressed. And I got like formally diagnosed when I was, I want to say 11, and then like a few years later, like diagnosed with anxiety and like different like stuff over the years. But I think what you're saying about the or like our how our culture views mental health is resonates with me so deeply too. And I think a lot of it is like generational trauma too. Like
Mhm.
if my grandparents were constantly stressful, which we know has like impacts on like our body as well and our health.
Mhm.
But if they're
Mhm.
constantly stressful and had no emotional capacity, like how was it that they raised their children and what were the conditions that they grew up in? And in turn, like for like my family, I've thought a lot about the ways that my family has responded to like my mental health, or in many ways like not responded, and
Mhm.
how in line that is with the way that their parents like were there for them, or were even able to show up, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, being being diagnosed at such a young age with depression, and you saying my parents, the way my parents showed up or didn't show up, how has that impacted you or affected you throughout this mental health journey?
Oh man. I mean, like I think it would be like in like yeah, I think I can't acknowledge my like the depression or the anxiety without first like acknowledging like the trauma as well. So I got diagnosed with depression when I was around 11, anxiety a few years later, and then I want to say 3 years ago I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD, complex PTSD actually, um, which I don't know how if you guys are familiar with that.
With complex PTSD?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the argument behind it is basically that chronic trauma affects your brain differently, quite literally in the way it functions. And for me, as someone who grew up like early on with like a formal like diagnosis, there were so many things about my experience and like the symptoms that I was facing and the things that I was struggling with that didn't fit under either like depression or anxiety. And I ended up internalizing a lot of it. And I was like, well, if I'm depressed and I'm still struggling with like all of these other things that don't fit under depression, then it has to be me. Like there's something like internally with me that's dysfunctional, that doesn't work. And it's
Mm.
been a lot of work, and it's still like constantly a lot of work to try to recognize that um, a lot of it is a response to either to trauma or to like different ways that people have reacted, and
Mhm.
it's not so much a message of like it's me that's like that's wrong or that's broken, but so much about my perception and the reality that has impacted that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to hug you. I'm gonna get in the car and drive and give you a hug. You know, that's my initial thing from there. And once again, thank you a lot for sharing. And yeah, I think what you're saying is right. It reminded me of a video that I just shared in a group chat that we have recently of like I don't know if you guys. Well, I know you know probably know, but like Dr. Gabor Mate. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Maritza.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not.
he's like my favorite guy right now when it comes to trauma and healing and all that stuff. And he was saying how being alone is just as traumatic or even more significant than the actual event itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that you don't have someone
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you were not able to receive what you needed as a kid or just as a person in general is a big reason for that. And that is what he says is that's also a signal of your upbringing. The fact that you didn't feel comfortable, and that's what's actually underneath it that makes what happens to us so much more traumatic. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
so much more hard that we don't get what we need from our caretakers or the people around us when we go to them, or they haven't been available for us, so we don't even go to them. And then, like you said, you internalize everything, and now that's like a big issue. That's what it's a big problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there have been studies around that of they've had two different groups of people, and they've tried to like account for all of the things to make sure that they have like similar experiences, but like the actual event of what we would call like the traumatic event, um, people without support tend to have more of a traumatic response than people that experience similar events but have that piece of community. It is less likely that they will develop any signs of post-traumatic stress disorder or any long-term effects of the event. So if from a very early age you are experiencing depression, then anxiety, and later on the CPTSD, and how your family, like you mentioned, is or isn't there for you, right? Like how that greatly impacts your experience. And even now as an adult, if they're still not showing up for you, it still gets exacerbated, right? And continues to, those generational traumas are continue to survive because the people that are supposed to be there for us, that are supposed to be our community, are not showing up.
Hmm. I love that you have the context of anime that Norma doesn't have. But that's what Naruto is. Isn't that what Naruto is? Like
Yeah.
that's the difference between Naruto and Sasuke, right? Is the whole shit how you can have such traumatic fucking experience in your life and you just don't have anybody, or you choose to separate yourself, and where does that lead you? And I just feel like I don't know if I told you, but I just finished it recently, and I thought it was so beautiful at the end where they say he's going to live happily ever after because of the relationships that he built and having everyone around him, like in the episode of the wedding. um so like I thought like that was the most beautiful thing that like I learned from there, of how important it is to have that, and uh how that impacted him, and having people to believe in him and to be there for him, and that is what led him in a completely different path than Sasuke, for that matter. Shout out to my shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like, shout out to my shirt. Both of them are there. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I can, I 100% feel that in my healing, because I went through, I think I've always had anxiety, not so much depression throughout my life. And then in 2018, I had a panic attack. I've told the story plenty of times. And then I realized that. And then I had like super severe depression and anxiety mixed up with that. Um, and because of that, the relationship I've built, starting with what my therapist, then a deeper connection with my wife, then now having Norma, having your brother, having those kind of relationships are the reason why I'm so much better now. Like I can attest directly to having someone to talk to share with, that someone that I don't feel judged. I feel understood. I feel like I can count on them. Like that makes an entire like world of a difference on me dealing with the day-to-day shit, or like even the deeper stuff, or like subconscious shit, or things that I just need to deal with on the regular. So it's very, very important.
Yeah. I mean, I think community is everything. Like
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
world is so fucked up, and all we really got is each other. And how do we show up for each other?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So in that regard, then, if family hasn't been the best at supporting you throughout your journey, where do you find your community?
I mean, okay, for me, I'll say family as a whole, I have not been able to count on, but I am incredibly like so lucky and so honored to have my sister Dulce. Um, I can 100% say like if I had not had Dulce as a child, as like an adult now, like I would not be here. They
Mm.
have been have played such a supportive role. Even when my family and I only knew of it as like as depression or as anxiety, and having those conversations with my parents of like the need to support me, um, and then later like with when I got to a point where I disclosed my trauma to my family, like they have been really like the only one to take a step, and even if they couldn't protect me as a child, like protecting me like as an adult. And yeah, um, I'm so lucky to have them. Outside of Dulce, I would say it was really hard for me to move away when I moved from our hometown Hayward in the Bay Area to Riverside, which is an hour east of LA, down in SoCal, and it was incredibly hard. It was the first year was so isolating because we didn't have family here, didn't have friends here, and I've always been kind of a loner, like not really sure how to talk to people. But my second year, I got involved with one of the student groups on campus that was specifically like the undocumented student group, and it was so transformative. It was so amazing. It was the first time in my life too that I found friends that I felt were really like aligned with me too, like that
Mm,
understood like just how important like community is, like how important it is to stand up and like talk about the hard things, and to not even like talk about things like in theory, but follow it through with action as well. And a lot of those friends like are the friends that I have even now today that I see through work, or like we'll hang out on the weekends, or like we'll make plans. And that's really also why like I moved back to the IE too, was the recognition of I could be home with my family who would show up in the way they know how, which is materially, but not emotionally. Or I could go to the IE when I was in a position to be able to take care of myself a little bit more and have people who could be there emotionally.
Mm.
definitely. I see a similar thing, like what we were discussing earlier with Norma outside of the podcast. I struggle with the same thing, with wanting more of an emotional, more of a connection, and to feel understood and supported in that way. And I'm struggling with not having that, with not getting those things. Um, so I definitely understand what you mean, and it's something that I think I'm learning to, and I just like I'm starting to exercise a little bit more again. And that's what came up for me today in my walk is like, well, you can't get it from other people. You can't get the acceptance you're looking from them. You're looking for that, but like you can do something yourself about yourself. Like I
Yeah.
can give it to myself. I can remind myself, and I can be have full of acceptance and full of support for myself in that way. And at the end of the day, I think that's what most important, anyways. It's like, yes, we all need that stuff, and then I think by giving it to me, then I'll be okay, and I'll still appreciate the shit out of everyone that does it for me. Um, but I can provide that for myself ultimately, and find continue to heal so that I can that light comes out from within. That peace, that love, that acceptance comes from within. I think it's also very important to have that. And just today, I was like, maybe reshift the focus and away from what people are not giving me, and try to focus on what I can do and what I can control, and give that to myself as much. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yes, and I know.
uh, I struggle so much with that. I struggle so much with that because like one of the things that we're talking about is the sense of like community is everything, right? And we are at a biological level um genetically designed to be in community. That is what makes us thrive. That is a lot of where like healing happens, right? If we look at our indigeneity, that is how we heal within community. So Yes, I agree with the part of it is important for us to show up for ourselves, and um, finding that community that will be supportive, right? Like with you both, and in terms of like families not being able to show up for you in the way that you need them to, um, when maybe the our chosen family or the community that we've chosen has isn't available for whatever reason, then yeah, like we got to look inward to see like what is it that I need to work on to be able to give myself whatever it is that I'm needing or lacking right now. So I understand that. And that's not the end all be all. Like when we can, like please, please, please look for fucking community, look for your fucking people, because when we are our fucking lowest, that's when we need somebody to be like, bitch, I got you. It is so fucking important to have that, right? And I can't imagine for humor it's a what it's a like you're saying, like just Dulce being there for you, just the fact that they were able to show up for you, right? And literally one person can make such a difference when you say, if it wasn't for them, I would not be here today. Just how one human in our life could literally make or break whether we are in this plane or not.
Mhm. Yeah. You swear a lot, Norma.
I swear a lot. I'm not sorry.
I'm completely fucking with her because that's usually me, and I'm like, "Wait, you're swearing a lot. Who are you?" But it's just gonna hit like, "You swear a lot," and I can pretend to be like, "I don't swear. I don't swear. What the fuck swear?"
I swear when I get passionate about shit, you know? And right now as you're talking about like I gotta give it to myself, I gotta give it to myself, and I'm like I'm
Yes.
like squirming inside. Because I mean, for you, Maritza, maybe let us in into a little bit of when navigating this, especially because you say like you were able to find your community through college and your sister being there and stuff like that. And what about before, right? Like when we're talking about like that 11-year-old child that is getting diagnosed, that you're saying basically all of my life I've had depression and I've experienced trauma. So what has that journey been like for you when maybe people weren't available to you?
Oh man. Um I mean, I think, and okay, so one thing that comes up frequently, whenever like with my little cousins, who are like babies, and something that their parents have brought up to me is, like, you used to read so much when you were a kid. Like, how do I get my kid there? And I'm like, it's good you want them to read. It was also a coping mechanism for me. Like every time I was reading, it was a way for me to disconnect from reality. Um, and I think I was really alone as a child. Like as much as I grew up with four siblings, but they were all much older than me, and like younger and older siblings, they want nothing to do with their little kid siblings. And I remember being really alone, which I think definitely played a role in how vulnerable I was. But I had at the time a friend group that I stayed with from elementary to high school.
Mhm.
Who, while I didn't disclose, like, I think the stuff I was really struggling with, because in a lot of ways I wasn't ready to really admit that, or like face it on. It did also provide me that sense of like I can get out of the house a little bit, or like I can be in the house and I can get a reprieve from all of these other stressors that are going on. But it has played like a huge role in, I think, the avoidant person that I am today. And yeah, that's why I'm saying this podcast, like this episode, comes at such an interesting time. So just a few days ago, I thinned out my close friends list on Instagram. I made it super small, like 6 people, to the people who like I would go to, like if I was really struggling.
Let me check if I'm still there. I'm gonna put you on the spot and be like,
He's like, hold on. His anxious attachment showed up really
I'm gonna check right away.
This is attachment happening real life. For those of you that will not be watching, but just listening to this, as she said that she sent out her friend list to 6 people, Steve's eyes widened, grabbed his phone and said, "Let me check if I'm still there." The anxiety, my man, the anxiety that came from that.
Like, if not, this podcast is over. Forget everything that I said. I don't want to hug you no more, Maritza. No, I'm just
Feels
kidding. No, but go ahead.
Oh man. But the reason why I did that was because I wanted to share where I was at, like mental health wise, and where I have been. Because as much as I do reach out to my friends and I'll tell them like I'm having a hard day, like can we do something? I'll rarely go into the like this is how hard it is, or I think sometimes even like acknowledging I'm asking for maybe like we do this activity, but I also maybe want to be listened to. And I think because I spent such like a formative part of my life alone, I don't really know. I'm uncomfortable with how to. And so what I did was I talked about what the last year has been like for me, in a way that I think I've like hinted to them, but haven't really been completely honest about. And I was also coming to like the realization too that, if when we love people, or like if to love is the act of like of knowing and like being known, and I'm not really being honest, I'm not giving my friends a chance to really know me, or even the opportunity to be there for me either. So yeah, this episode's coming at there's a lot of shifts happening in my life right now. So it's a really interesting time to be talking to me.
Nice. I love that.
Steve and I, we have different approaches to things. For him, it's like, give me the science, give me the proof. For me, more of the maybe spiritual journey. So to me, as you're saying this, this episode comes at a very peculiar time, right? I don't believe that is a coincidence. I believe that it's happening right now because it needs to happen right now. So I'm glad. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. And even as you're saying, I have a avoidant personality, or avoidant attachment, and I don't really tell people what's going on. And the fact that even with all of those tendencies, you are still showing up today and sharing this, I'm like, that is fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. That is a big step that you're taking right now. What's that like for you?
I think I feel less anxious about it than I did going into it. I think as I was like the week leading up to this and I was thinking about it, a lot of my thoughts were, I wasn't really sure like what I would say, because I also don't know if I have like the healthiest outlook on mental health. Like I think I think back to a lot of what I heard, like when I was maybe not a kid, but like a teenager, was I
Mhm.
always heard people say like, like it gets better, like it gets better. And I never really, no one ever really sat me down and was like, this might be lifelong. This might be something you like consistently have to struggle with. And I was really unsure going into here and like thinking about like everything teenage me like was hearing about people who have also struggled with mental health and like what I could say. But I think I hope you guys just like create such a, I know you guys told me before and I didn't really believe you. But like you did say like it would be an organic conversation and I'm like, okay, like the way to
You
catch
didn't
me off
believe
guard,
us?
you got me there.
You're like, that's bullshit. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it really is, because for me at least, I don't know, Steve, what it's like for you, but I'm interested in hearing stories. Hearing stories for me is something that I really enjoy. Where do you come from? Where have you been? What has gotten you here? What are the struggles? How do you handle those struggles? Like all of that is being able to just share space with somebody, because even if we're not in the same uh, physical location, we are still sharing space. This is community. So for me to just be able to have this conversation, it is a lot of healing as well, right? Like
Mhm.
you taking that step of fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it, even if I don't have the healthiest outlook on what mental health is, right? And even challenging when you say maybe this idea of mental health is that at some point I will be healed, right? There is this expectation that if you go to therapy, if you work through your shit, if you work through your wounds, and one day it'll be sunshine and rainbows. It'll be so pretty and the grass is greener and all this bullshit that we're told about mental health. And I don't know that this part that you're saying this might be lifelong. I don't know that that is necessarily unhealthy.
Maybe not like the that it is lifelong, but um I guess what I'm trying to say is what I've had to really struggle with the last few years is like coming to grips with like this has been my reality and this will probably like continue to be my reality. And a lot of that is also challenging like can that reality like look better? Like even if I am like consistently struggling, um if when I was okay, so for example, my depression when I was a child and in high school, it looked a lot different. I would have it was these like huge periods of time where I was so low, like consistently throughout the day, like every day, not able to like feel joy really at all. And now I'm at a point where I get these dips, and then I'll also get like I'll kind of like coming up for air. Um, that didn't that wasn't my reality before. That
Mhm.
wasn't what was going on. To me, like back then, living with if you had told me back then that I would be struggling with depression like my whole life, I would have been like, well, fuck you. Like that's such a that's not the way that that's not what I want to sign up for.
Mhm.
And now as an adult, I'm like, okay, like I can see the ways that this gets easier, that this gets better, that this gets um, a little bit like easier to manage.
Yeah. I'd like to share a little bit because I have once again a similar experience uh, through you than yours and my experience with depression. I feel like I was constantly either depressed or anxious, the two highs or lows for like probably 2 years. I want to say a year and a half where it was super high, super low, super high, super low. And I've told the story before in the podcast where at some point after having a panic attack, having a shower to go to therapy, I'm driving and I heard a song and I paid attention to the song. I enjoyed the song, and it was the first time in 18 fucking months that I felt something different.
Mm.
And I was like, this is so fucking crazy. And like, I paid attention. I noticed, like, wait a minute. I actually was able to be present for like a split second and not feel super anxious or like super depressed, right? Then I've had the similar experience as you in my healing, where now I noticed that there was like a little bit of a shit in between, and like those little gaps like started getting like bigger and bigger, and like I was able to feel more like myself. And then it was now minutes or an hour or some shit where then I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like the feeling came back and I was like, oh shit. But then I was like, wait, I actually felt okay for like this period of time, you know? And I also didn't fucking want to struggle with whatever the fuck I was going with. Like the most graphic thing that I say all the time is like I told Celia at some point, if somebody was to cut my leg from my fucking knee down and tell me I was never gonna feel anxiety or depression, I wouldn't take my leg. Like take it. I don't fucking need it. I don't want to feel this shit. And the thing that helped me so much was the acceptance part of it. And it's so ass backwards when they were telling me this of like you're gonna like anxiety is normal and like you feeling sad is fucking normal. And I was like, yeah, you guys can go fuck yourself. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's so painful and it's like that. How can you tell me that stuff? But by accepting it, it almost fucking went away like almost instantly. By making peace with the fact that this was something that I was gonna happen, and paying attention to the role that it was playing in me and why was it showing up. Like this other video that I see is coming up to mind where it says there's nothing wrong with you. So you're fucking reacting appropriately to whatever has been happening in your life and to the fucked up society that we live in, you know? Because we burden ourselves so much with wanting to feel like better and all that stuff. But like in the case of all three of us, we have the gift of feeling that a lot of people don't have that, don't want to open the door to feel all that stuff, but for whatever reason we feel shit like a lot. And that's what I like, the vibe that I get from you. And that's the part that like was so tough for me to understand, but once I did get it and accepted the suffering and accepted what was there, and then like I said, I was like, well, I'm reacting normally to a lifetime of shitty response, so and being alone and everything, so why am I mad? Why would I expect my mind not to react this way? And then after that, it was understanding that it's very difficult to undo and rewrite my brain to react differently, and it's going to take a long time. And like I told my wife just recently, I was like, I don't ever want to yell at you and I don't ever want to yell at the girls, but you're asking almost the fucking impossible for me to undo this whole way of shit. And yes, I've gotten so much better, but I'm sure for the rest of my life, it's gonna be my struggle to deal with that anger, to deal with those fucking things. So then I was like, if you at the same time don't accept me in that way, you're setting yourself up for failure. I'm gonna do my best and I'm gonna work my hardest at doing this shit. I'm trying to become conscious and I'm doing all these things to heal, but I'm aware that that's my journey. I'm aware that that's gonna be my path. I'm aware that that's something I'm gonna forever have to work on, you know. And that is my journey for the shit. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of that rejection part of it, and it's painful, but that acceptance, I think, has made so much, just such a huge difference in my life. And that is something that I'm working on more, of understanding that part of acceptance. And you know, like one thing that's another thing quick, because I know I'm taking a lot of the space here. My mentor, who's Buddhist, gave me this, has forever been telling me this shit, and like it never made sense in my head, or like I never really paid attention to it. But he was like, I remember I've interviewed him for podcasts, for schoolwork, for shit throughout his life, and he was to be like, yeah, the weather is the weather. You're gonna step outside and it's 70 degrees, and if you say that it's cold, it's cold. If you say that it's hot. If you say that you love it, you love it. If you say that you hate it, you hate it. The weather is just the weather, and the weather doesn't give a fuck about you. The weather is just the weather there presenting itself for what it is. So what, how are you perceiving the weather? What meaning are you giving to that stuff? And like just recently it makes sense to be like, yeah, like, okay, there, how do I perceive on the daily basis, and how am I playing the role in making myself and feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. If I look for light, I'm gonna find light. If I say this fucking sucks and this is painful, and I look for that stuff and I react in that way, then I'm gonna get that too. Not that there's anything wrong with feeling the pain or anything, but it's so much to do with how we react to what happened to us at the same time, you know? Because it's just shit is what it is. The life happens and things happen and whatever, and it's just about how we give it some meaning that has a lot of the power. And going back to like what that Dr. Mate said, which was similar to that, right? Like, how are we reacting to our trauma or to our stuff has so much to do with it. And learning to love. And once again, as I'm saying it, I just realize how fucking ridiculous it still sounded back then to learn your love, your depression, make friends with their anxiety, and do that shit. It seems just so ass backwards. It seems like it doesn't make any sense. But to now, or at least for me, just like I still struggle like every once in a while it comes up, but it's so much in a different perspective. It's much more inquisitive. Like I feel something and I'm like, well, where's the pain? What is it why is this coming up for me? What is the struggle? What do I want to change? What am I maybe not accepting? Like that is at least what's been working for me recently, and it's kind of making sense. um and how much forcing, and how I'm reacting to life, and how much I try to force something that I have no control over you know yeah.
I think it's one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, so I'm on my I want to say I'm on my third day out of a 9 month period where um I was like constantly operating like the lowest of lows. And
Mhm.
in those 9 months, I had like that recognition of um there's a problem with my the problem is my with my perception, not with the reality. And it might be like unique to CPTSD or like that specific experience, but for me, because my sense of reality is so distorted, um the recognition, like being able to like logically think that didn't couldn't really help me. And for me it was a lot of, well, honestly, like therapy. Therapy, like therapeutic techniques, like the coping techniques that they've taught. And I think so much of how much a proper diagnosis has impacted me, and like a
Mhm.
proper treatment and access to a therapist, even like access to healthcare, because I've gone so many periods being uninsured too, and either like not being able to afford the copay for the therapist that I really liked and was able to work with. Um, there's yeah, there's so much to it, and I think that's also the part that really sucks too. It's not even just like, as I think about my childhood and like my family, and um it's none of it is to like say that they're blameless, because they're not. There were active choices being made, but there were also so many external stressors
Mhm.
that had an impact as well. And I think I'm getting off topic here. Like I'm just kind of like word
No, no, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no, no. I think all of this that you're talking about, like you started off this not answer, but you said that is just one piece of the puzzle, and how these other outside things also affect how we we are able to experience our mental health journey, right? How we are able to navigate it. And now we get more into the systemic oppression and capitalism and fuck America and all of those things, right? How for so long you've experienced not being properly diagnosed, so not getting treatment, and how much of that affects the prognosis of mental health too, right? Like not having constant treatment, maybe not having the right therapist, not having the support, and like not having uh, the financial aspect in place to be able to access mental health. Like, uh, so when you say like, oh, I'm getting off track, like, no, like all of those things are parts of the puzzle that definitely impact how we deal with things and how we view things, right? I like the fact that you also acknowledge when I'm in my low, like, yeah, maybe right now on my third day coming out of that, I'm able to say, like, yeah, my perception does affect how I see things. And when I am in the low of the low, when I am in my, we've talked about here in the podcast with downstairs brain being like your instinct, your survival brain, the logic ain't going to make sense. It's not going to be there. Right now when I'm in my low, this reality, my perception of it, my perception of the outside world is my reality. This is how I am experiencing it right now. So you can give me all the motherfucking coping tools that you want. You can give me all the books that you want. You give me all of the grounding exercises that you want. But if my brain does not, my lower brain doesn't have that information there, I'm not going to be able to access it while I am in this survival mode, right? Like my job right now, when I'm at the lowest of the lows, is just to fucking make it through the next fucking hour, to the next fucking 5 minutes. So we definitely need to acknowledge all of those things that you are mentioning. All that to say, you were not going off topic.
Yeah.
Steve and I tend to go on tangents too. So
Mhm. And yeah, I think that's what like I was more meaning to say at the end of the day, that part of like too, like that's okay. However long you need and whatever you need to feel, like that's okay. Because sometimes like I think how much there's a burden of feeling good and feeling wanting to be okay, you know. So whenever we need to feel that, and however long it takes us, that's how much we need. And that's okay. And accept that and ride that out. And that's something that I'm feeling, something that I need right now, and that's completely fine. And give yourself as much as that as you need.
with living with CPTSD, what would you say have been the biggest challenges?
Man, what's not a challenge?
Mm.
Um, it's the I think the like horrible reality of it. Um, for me, living with CPTSD means that I go through life with as if my nervous system lives on top of my skin. And so there's days where even the wind will hurt. Um, on my lowest of days, it seems like every action seems insurmountable. And it's like I'm doing the laundry wrong. I'm getting groceries wrong. I'm talking to people wrong. I'm doing like whatever, like the smallest thing, like wrong. Because for me, my nervous system is like constantly being triggered into as if like a fire alarm went off in my brain, and there's lights flashing, and there's this like horrible like loud sound, and um, someone's like talking over the speakers trying to tell me what to do, and at the same time I'm trying to process and like be present and like physically like what is going on around me. um there's not a single day where what happened to me as a kid like doesn't affect me. um yeah, it's incredibly hard, and it's such a unique, cruel hell. And I think for me, when I like think about like what we're talking about, like perception, like I mentioned, like the state that I'm in right now, like I can say and I can feel that the recognition that like things pass, like the bad times will pass, and so will like the good times, and like the bad times will come again, and then they'll end, and the good times will like come, and I can acknowledge that and like and feel peace with it.
Mhm.
But even just like 3 days ago,
Mhm.
thinking about that would have been a trigger just in itself of like, well, now I have to go through this whole shit like all over again.
Mhm.
um yeah, there's not a single aspect of my life where it doesn't come into play.
Wow. I
Which I
can't. Go ahead.
oh sorry. I mentioned earlier I had a period where um my mental health got really intense, and I went home. um and that to me was 2 years of I spent a few months like not I went home and I didn't work. I wasn't working, I wasn't going to school. um I didn't ever really leave the room or leave the house, and a lot of that was really like self-reinforcing of like, if I'm not needing to interact with people or interact with the world, like I'm not facing all these stressors. But it's made the process of like leaving that state to be incredibly hard, because now I am constantly like facing the stressors. And it has been like a huge adjustment period too of learning how to be out in the world again.
Mm, yeah. I can't even begin to fathom what that's like for you in your day to day. I as you're painting this picture of there's alarms going off and somebody speaking over all of the noise, trying to tell me how to navigate stuff, just to get through this moment, this trigger, and that is your day to day. I'm like, fuck, that must be so fucking hard. And you saying without Dulce's help or support, I wouldn't be here today. And even if I just met you today, I am so glad that you've had Dulce to help you through this. And even with the daily hell that you're saying that you experience, I can tell you that I am so glad that you're here. I am so happy you're here.
Sorry, guys, my laptop's about to die. Let me grab it.
That's okay.
Yeah. I want to have a conversation with you off the podcast for that. We'll save it for the little bit off the podcast. Just remind me. It's gonna get a little more personal, but we'll talk about it afterwards. I don't think
Okay.
I don't think
More
it's ready.
personal than this.
I don't think it deserves to like be in the air yet. Because it involves other people, but yeah. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh, we lost you. Nope. Nope.
There you go.
Yeah.
I pushed the bar on the thing. Like, going back to the community part of it too. I think this is.
It's not on. Your mic is not on. Just FYI.
Again?
It's not on.
Okay, then you two talk then.
Okay.
Did you understand that? Can you hear me now?
I mean, we can hear you, but it's not coming through the mic. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, it's probably loading. Let me double check.
Yeah.
Settings. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's not. Well, I don't know, but you can still hear me. Fuck it. I don't know what's going on. Everybody that I talk to that's come on to the podcast, like I want to be their friend. You get me? Because there's still that part of me that is, like I said, is still looking for that understanding and is looking for that connection. And a lot of the times it takes for somebody to struggle to understand the struggle, right? Like, so I think it's so important. And what I told you when I invited you was, you're like, I don't know what to talk about. And I say, your experience is enough. Like, you probably have no idea how your words are going to resonate with whoever listens to it, and how powerful it is for you to be so vulnerable again and to share your experience. Because there's so many people that feel just like you. There's so many people that feel just like you, and I've been there. Norma's been there, and a lot of the people that we know, and that's why we do what we do to try to show up for one another, because we know how tough it is, right? So, like, I want to invite you to be my friend. Your brother mentioned to me that you were hesitant about reaching out and hanging out with us, and yes, hang out with us. You're more than welcome. If I'm still on your list, by the way, okay. If I'm not, about it. None of this matters. Yeah, like
all of this contingent on you being on the Instagram friend.
We'll never let that go.
We will never let that go, girl.
No, but yeah, you're more than welcome, and like I've said, we look forward to it because I see a lot of similarities in the things that you're saying with your avoidance and all that stuff that Celia has, right? Like I see a lot of Celia in you and how she struggles. She's such an amazing listener and takes all that stuff in, but for her to say how she feels, it's so foreign and it's so hard for her and doesn't even know how to communicate. She's getting a lot better at it, but she still struggles with saying, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I've been struggling with, and yeah. So I think you'll fit in, we'll fit in together, and we have so many similarities that you can do that. And Norma goes to Moreno Valley 24/7, by the way. She
Oh,
travels
no
all-
way.
I
So-
will be there.
See?
I will
And
be
yeah,
there. in-
Well, I live in Riverside now, but I'm right next to Moreno Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Redlands. I'm gonna be in Redlands. In 2 weeks.
Oh, cool. No way.
So we can.
So,
It'd be cool to
I
get
mean,
together. I said it'd be cool to get together and build that and add you to a much needed community that we need out here.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I look for the types of relationships where we can help each other heal, because I do believe that it is a reciprocal process, just as much as you sharing your story, right? Like your voice is healing, is going to be healing for other people that listen to it. As Steve said, um, this hearing your story gives me more empathy, and this part of like, I gotta be more patient with people. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what their every day is like. So you're giving me a big reminder of be gentle, be patient, be respectful of other people's experience. So thank you for that. And yeah, like Steve said, um, I would love to continue having these conversations, with you, if you're up to it. If you ever in Vegas, please reach out. If um, yeah, yeah, I would love to continue this.
Hmm. Because this is who we are. She came over and we spent 2 days in this conversations, like 24/7. Like
Mm.
there was not a moment of like we're not fucking being vulnerable, pushing each other, challenging each other, doing this shit. What you see in the podcast is what a relationship is. Like we just,
And even deeper, honestly. So
yeah,
when you say like deeper than this, I'm like, yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, so definitely looking forward. And like I said, I would like to invite you and welcome you to the community of us. And just also as a little plug, and to also make that available for you, we like I started this group on Instagram with the goal to find and develop that community, because I was like, I need more friends that I can count on, that won't feel judgmental, that I can be vulnerable with and stuff like that. So we started this Instagram chat. So if you're interested, or anybody that's listening is interested in it, like it's still there. We do share a lot of stuff. There's people in many different levels of the healing of their journey, so you get advice from many different opinions and from many different walks of life and stuff like that. So if you're interested, or anybody else, like I said, interested in joining that, like, you know, that's available for you guys. But yeah, I feel like there's so much I want to continue to ask
I
people and
know,
hear about
I
people.
know. I want to too, but I want to be mindful of time, or of people.
Yeah.
Uh, anything else that you would like to share with us on the record?
On the record. No, I mean, I think just, I mean, what you guys said, I think sharing and being vulnerable is not just for us, but for other people too.
Mhm.
Like I don't think I would have ever shared with Dulce had Dulce not shared with me first and like shown me how to share. And I would not have like disclosed my trauma if someone else had not disclosed their trauma to me.
Mhm.
So it's a constant cycle. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Shout out to Dulce.
Shout out to Dulce.
She'll be on
Uh,
next Friday. I haven't told you, but she's on next.
Yeah. I'm really curious how that one goes because Dulce has been floating this idea around for a while of um like doing a kind of like a narrative of like our family from like different perspectives, like me as like Maritza and then Dulce as Dulce. Um, it's been yeah, so I'm excited to hear what you guys get from Dulce.
mm. Well,
Nice.
the episode will be out soon, and then you can go ahead and re-listen to this one. It's always interesting to go back and listen to our voices, and then you can definitely hear Dulce's as well. Thank you. All right, y'all. Mindful living, mindful podcast living at gmail.com is our email. Please give us feedback. Let us know. People are
Just
So
gotta get
shy.
more chisme. The cheese. If there's chisme people listening to that
If
episode.
there is chisme, people listen to it. Yes, my divorce episode came out in Spanish, and people were like taking their popcorn out, like I want to listen to this. Like gente chismosa, dude. Um, but yes, let us know any feedback if you want to be a guest, comments, compliments, criticisms. We will take it take it all. And remember, you got to let go in order to grow.
Peace.
Thank you.